As we open up our series on the first 10 amendments to the Constitution, called the Bill of Rights, we see the First Amendment stating, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or of the right of the people to peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. The Bill of Rights stands on this First Amendment. Without this amendment, all others would fall because they would not have the ability to organize to work to uphold them, and the entire spirit of the Bill of Rights would be without effect. The First Amendment establishes the basic tenets of liberty and the right of the people to protest to their government for anything it may do wrong and be able to organize to do so. As we mentioned in the introduction, our founders were a religious people, being primarily Christian, but they did not all belong to the same sect or denomination. Unlike Europe, they worked together for the common cause of liberty, but they knew how religion could be used as an authoritarian means over the people, especially if wielded by government. Most colonies, in other words, the independent and sovereign states which united to form our country, had a predominant denomination within them, and some even had governments that recognized a particular denomination as the official church of that colony. This changed after the adoption of the Constitution. The mother country, England, had a bad history of using religion as a weapon on other people who did not believe the same as those in power. There was a repression of different sects by the Crown or the government, sometimes to the point of enforcement by death. Indeed, many settled in the New World to escape such an oppression. They did not want this to happen in America. Yet there is nothing in this amendment or the entire Bill of Rights that states there is to be a separation between church and state. All Christian faiths and Judaism believe in the Ten Commandments, and all practice their religion openly. What they did not want was for the government to proclaim one denomination over another, but did not say religion could not enter into public life or be hindered from serving as the basis of good government. They simply wanted to be free to practice their religion unimpeded, or to have government declare one denomination to be the official sect of the country. And remember, the first commandment is that thou shalt have no other gods before me. If they adhered to the Ten Commandments, as they did, they would not have limited putting God before everything. The American Civil Liberties Union is an example of an organization which professes to stand for the Bill of Rights. Yet they work to destroy the spirit of these rights by working to eliminate our Judeo-Christian heritage from all public life. They've been at the forefront of working to remove the Ten Commandments from public buildings and all references to God from American schools. The Declaration of Independence proclaims that we receive our rights from our Creator, God in other words, and that no one has the right to take these rights away. The next thing you know, the ACLU will want to censor this from the Declaration so we can have a politically correct version for modern times, I suppose. Question: if God is eliminated from the classrooms of America, how can you teach this very fundamental aspect of Americanism to the students? You can't. You see, this is one of the ways the very spirit of the founding documents is under attack, and calling it freedom of speech by having certain speech censored. It is not freedom of speech if you censor people who want to teach the foundations of the founding of our country. For the first 200 years, the Ten Commandments and other references to God were emblazoned on the facade of government buildings and schools as a reminder of our heritage. The entire idea of a separation of church and state has been taken out of context and used by those who want to eliminate God from our lives, and with Him, the very nature of our form of government. This enables the Marxists to work to change our government into a Marxist model by setting up a system that stifles real freedom of speech. If the people do not understand the basic spirit of the Bill of Rights, the people will stand for these rights being changed or eliminated entirely. In order for Marxists to control the people, they first have to eliminate their rights. The second clause pertaining to religion says, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. This is somewhat different than simply holding a religious belief. in that believing in something and practicing it are two different things. Believing isn't necessarily openly practicing one's religion. Our founders wanted to make sure that people could openly and freely practice their religion in their everyday lives and be able to do so with others. In other words, they could not be prohibited from meeting with others in churches and meeting halls who held the same beliefs. In England and other parts of Europe, there did exist prohibitions against church services when those in power differed from any particular denomination and had banned people from attending church services. Recall that the Pilgrims fled England and finally settled in America so they could openly practice their religion as a body. And there were others that did so as well. The record of Christianity has been spotted with repression from time to time by other Christians who acted less than Christians. Our founders did not want this to happen in the United States. As a result of the Bill of Rights, America has been a place where more religious beliefs have sprung up and practiced with only a few instances of religious oppression, unlike anywhere else in the world. The spirit of freedom of speech or of the press has been violated perhaps more than any other provision of the Bill of Rights. At the time the Bill of Rights were written, speech and press were the only two means of communication, and as such they were specifically mentioned. Since this time, every new invention of communication has come under the control by regulation of the federal government. The telegraph, telephone, radio, television, cell phones, and increasingly the internet. This constitutes a violation of the First Amendment, but most people think nothing of it. Various excuses have been used to control these means of communication, but that's all they are, excuses. There should be no controls over any form of communication by the federal government unless they are engaging in a criminal act or enterprise. The right of the people to peaceably assemble is generally one that was rarely oppressed, although increasingly this right is coming under duress due to violence perpetuated by Marxist street organizations or the government in the name of pandemics or public protest using the excuse of possible ensuing violence. The right to peaceably assemble does not have any exceptions. Our founders dealt with disease and other emergencies and did not write into the First Amendment any exceptions. Governments have had a bad habit of seizing people who have brought grievances to them, calling them traitors, confiscated their property, imprisoned them, tortured them, or even killed them, simply because they didn't like people complaining. This was something our founders did not want to happen, so they wrote into the First Amendment the right to petition the government for redresses. So you can see that religion, communication, and people coming together to either worship or organize, and being able to complain to government is the foundation for every other right, and why these were placed right up in front in the Bill of Rights. Next week, we'll talk about the Second Amendment.